Hello everyone, welcome to this video. Once again, in this video we are going to be creating this beautiful CSS animated buttons. Let me show you how the animations looks like on each of these buttons. Alright, so this is the first one with some kind of borderlines animation. Alright, so this is more like a gradient background reveal animation. This is more like a wiggle kind of animation. This is similar to this one. This is a solid color, so it's a background reveal animation. And this is more like a windy effect, right? So we're going to be using CSS to create this. Let's jump into CodePen and see how we can create this. Alright, so I'm in CodePen now, and you could see I have a basic setup here. So let me just take you through the setup before we start styling. So there is this container with some boxes inside, as you can see here, and then I have each of the buttons inside each of these boxes, right? So btn1, btn2 to btn5, right? And they all also have these btn classes as well. So that's all I have in my HTML. When I come to the CSS, I'm just styling the container, displaying it as flex, and then setting flex wrap to wrap so that it's going to wrap like this. And then with these boxes, I am also displaying it as grid and then placing the item in the center, just to place like the buttons in the center of the boxes. So nothing really fancy going on here. So when you look at the buttons, see all the buttons have a uniform style. I'm using the btn class to style all the buttons to have the same width and height. The font size to 1.2 rems. The font family, font width 500. Cursor display inline block, outline none, border none. I'm setting the width to 200 pixels and then padding of 0, just to remove like any padding on buttons. We are going to start from the first button. This is the first button. This is the animation for the first button, right? So let's style the first button. What I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to give it a background, and it's going to be this color. The color is FFF. That's white. I'm going to give it a border radius 5 pixels. Position relative, that's because I'm going to position some items relative to it. And I'm going to also add a transition. I'm going to say all, and then it's going to take 0.5 seconds. Easy. So if you look at it, the background gradient, the blue gradient I have on this one, background, which is going to be linear gradient, so 0 degrees, and then the first color is going to be this one. So let me just add the ash. That is going to be from 0%, and then this one 027EFB, and then 100% it's going to be that color. So let me save this one, and then yeah, I see the gradient working. So the next thing I'm going to do is to add a hover effect, and then hover. So on hover, it's going to change the background color to transparent. So background is going to be transparent, and then the color is going to be the blue color, this one. So if I hover now, see it's transparent, and then the color is this. Now I'm going to use the before and after pseudo classes to add the borders around this. btn-1, and then colon before, and I'll also style the after class. So I want to give them like one styling before I style each of them individually. After. Now I want to position all of them solid. I want to say content. I need this one, and then right is going to be 0, and then top is going to be 0. Now background is going to be the color I copied. Actually, let me use the deeper one, this one instead. And then I'll also add a transition, and I'll say all dot 3 seconds as one is. Yeah. So what this is going to do is it is going to select the before and after pseudo classes, and it's going to say right 0, top 0, so it's going to start from the right corner here, but you're not seeing it because there is no width and height set on them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say btn this one, and then before, if I say height maybe 10 pixels, and width 10 pixels, and then maybe give it a background color, background black. Notice I have this dot here. Let me say comma instead of dot. Yeah, so it's comma instead of dots, and that is it. You see that here. This, the height from the start, the height is going to be 0%, and then the width is going to be 2 pixels for the start. I'm going to have one for the after. So after, I'm gonna say the height is rather going to be 2 pixels, 0%. What I'm doing here is I'm using the before for the height from top to down, and then after is going to be from right to left, right? So when you see, if I hover, yeah, so the after is from right to left, and then the before is from top to down. So it's going to animate from the start. It's going to be 0%, and then when you hover, it's going to start from 0% to 100%. The same with the height, right? So I will copy this and then add the hover effect. So on hover, I am going to say the height is going to be 100%, and then with this one, hover, the width is going to be 100%, not 1000, 100. So let me save this, and then let me check the effect now. See that? Right. So when I hover, the after is animating from right to left, and then the before is animating from top to down. When you check btn1 here, so there is this span inside the button. I'm going to use the span to do the same thing for the bottom here, right? So I have the btn span here. Say it's just position relative, the display is grid, and I am placing the content in the center. The width and height is going to be 100% of the width and height of the parent. And then before, I am saying position absolute, content left and bottom is 0, background is the same background that we have at the top here, and then transition is all is 0.3 seconds. Yeah, and then before, the width is going to be 3 pixels, the height is going to be 0 pixels, right? So I said that the before is going to animate from bottom to top, so it's going to be the height. That's what I'm doing here. So it's going to start from 0% to 100%. Now the after is going to be the left to right, so the after is going to start from 0% and it's going to go all the way to 100%, right? So that is our first button working. Yeah, let's go ahead and see how we can do the second button as well. Alright, so we are going to be creating the gradient background reveal animation for the second button. So this is my second button here. I'm going to set a position to relative because I'm going to have the pseudo before element positioned absolute. I'm going to say border radius is going to be 5 pixels. Background. Now the background is going to be the linear gradient. If I go here again, so the linear gradient here is the actual background of the button, and then what you see here is the background of the before pseudo element, right? So the background of this one is going to be the linear gradient. So it's going to be from left to right with these two colors. That means I also have to change the color #FFF, and then I'm going to set the overflow to hidden. A second thing is I'm going to select the span element in button 2 as well. I am going to say dot btn -2, then I'm selecting the span. Now I'm going to say position relative for the span as well, and the reason why I'm using the span is because I'm going to give a background to the before pseudo element. I don't want the text on this button to be hidden, so I want to position this relative and give it a z index so that it is going to show the text. It's going to appear on top of the before pseudo elements, right? So I'm going to say z index is going to be 2. I'm going to say transition on this. It's going to be the color 0.4 seconds. Now I'm going to set a display as inline flex, and then the align items is going to be center. Now I can select the before, so let me copy btn2 and say before. Now the content is going to be empty as usual. Position is going to be absolute. I'm going to say z index is 0. Now left is going to be -10%. I'll show you again. It's going to start from this side to this side, so it's going to be hidden. So if I say -10%, then it's going to go all the way here, so you won't see it at first. Top is going to be 0. Now width, I'm going to make it 120% so that it will be bigger than the parent element, the actual button. And then the height is going to be 100%. It's going to be the same as the parent element. I'm going to say the background is going to be that color that we see, this color, right? This color. Yeah, there you go. And the last thing is to add a hover effect for the before. So I'm going to say hover for the before, and the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to transform it, right? And say translate x, which is going to be 100%. I need to add the transform to this as well. So from the start, the before is going to have a transform, and I'm going to say skew 30 degrees. So that is going to give it the tilted edge, right? And then I would say transition. I'm going to transition the transform that I'm setting down here. It's going to take 0.4 seconds. And I experimented with this a little bit, right? And I saw that if I use cubic Bezier, supposed to be 0, this numbers 0.3, 1, 0.9, 1, it is going to give me the effect I want. And I basically used this site to do it, right? So you could see my numbers here, and if I click on go, yeah, that's basically the animation on it, right? And that gives me this kind of animation. So if I save this and I hover on it, you see that's the kind of animation I'm getting. Right, so the website, it's called cubicbezier.com. You can come here and experiment with your transitions, and then whichever one works for you best, you can actually use it. You'd notice that the last thing I want to do, you notice that when I click on it, it actually scales it down a little bit. So I want to add that as well. With that, I'm using the active class. So dot btn2 and then active. I want to say transform. This time it is going to do a scale. It's going to scale it down 0.95. If I hover and make it active, it's not working here. Oh yeah, that's because I forgot the dash here. So if I hover on it and click on it, you see it scales down a bit, right? Yeah, so that's button 2. Now let's go ahead and see how we can do this wiggle effect for button 3. So with that, I'm going to use button 3, btn 3 selector here. So first of all, I want to do position relative. The border radius is going to be a bit bigger, so border radius 50 pixels, and then the background color border 1 pixel solid, and then I'm going to use a different shade of the background color, right? So this one, so color is going to be this. I'm going to do the hover effect. So btn 3, then when I hover, going to give it some animation. So let me set up my animation down here. So in CSS we use the @keyframes, and then the animation name is going to be wiggle. So I'm going to start from 0%, right? Then it is going to go to 25%, 50%, 75%, and then 100%, right? So an interval of 25%, then it's going to rotate. So I'll copy this 4 more times. So this is going to be 25%, this is going to be 50%, 75, and this is going to be at 100%. At 0%, it is going to start from 0 degrees. It is going to start a rotation from 0 degrees. So I'm going to use transform, then rotate. I will say 0 degrees. I'll copy this, and at 25% it's going to go just a little bit, so just 3 degrees. At 50% it will come back to the negative side. Right, so I will do -3 degrees, and then I will regulate again to the positive side. So with that one I will do 1 degrees, and then at 100% it's going to go back to 0 degrees. Right, just like this. So this is how my animation is going to look like. Now I can use the animation on hover, so I can say animation, then my animation name is called wiggle. It's going to take 0.7 seconds, and then I am using ease in and out, and then both. So both actually is the fill mode. Okay, so with this our button is pretty much done. So if I hover, you see that effect. There you go. Which means I don't actually need this. So let's go ahead and do this background reveal animation for button 4. Alright, so this is my selector for button 4. If I scroll here, this one, because I'm going to use one color for like all the borders and the background color for the pseudo elements, I am going to define a variable here. So I'm going to call it color, and then the color code is going to be 0844 EB. So this is the color I'm going to be using for button 4. So once I define the variable color here, I can use it in all elements that are within this button 4 element. So I'm going to say display inline block position is going to be relative, overflow is going to be hidden. I'm going to say border 2 pixels solid, and I will be using the variable here by doing var dash dash color. It's the name of the variable. Now I'll add a transition and say color 0.5 seconds, z index 1. I will also add a border radius 5 pixels, and then the actual color is also going to be the same variable color. Okay, so that is what we have now. Now on hover.btn -4, and then on hover we are going to say color is white. That's because we are going to change the background color of the before pseudo element to the blue color. Now we will select the before pseudo element, so .btn -4, and then we do before. So content is going to be this. We are going to set a background, so the background color dash color, we want the width to be 130%, just to be a bit larger than the actual size of the element, parent element, and then the height is going to be 220 pixels, border radius is going to be 100%. I'm going to now add a position absolute, and then the z index, as I have down there, is going to be -1, just to be behind. Top is going to be 100%, and the left as well 100%, and then I'll at the end of the day add my transition all 0.7 seconds. I'm missing E here. Let me also add the hover effect here. I have the width and then the height, and I have the top and left as 100%, so it's going to be hidden. So it is only the hover which is going to show it, reveal it. Dot btn dash 4 and then the before hover. So when I hover on the before, so before. Alright, so if I check now, that is it. So the border radius is 100, which makes it round. And it's moving from the position we set at first, that is 100% left, 100%. It's going to be positioned somewhere here, and then when we hover, it's going to come all the way to negative 60 pixels. So going to be filled here. So because it is big, it's going to cover the entire area here, right? And that gives us this effect. There's a little transition on this one when I click on it, so let me add that as well. So btn active before, so when you click, that is the active class. When you click on it, it should set this background color. Actually, let me change the color to something more bluish. So let me change the color to this. Alright, so btn4, when I click on it, it's going to deepen the background color, right? Alright, so that's our button 4 done. Let's move to button 5. If I show you button 5 again, so we have this windy effect, more like a window. So we are going to first of all say color. It's going to be white, as you saw. Now I'll give it a background size. So the background size, actually the size the background should occupy, right? So if I position an image on an element and I give it a background size, maybe contain, I'm saying that it should be contained in the elements. You can also give percentages as background sizes, so it's going to actually occupy the percentage amount you give it, right, on the x and y axis, right? So with this one, I'm going to specify 300% on the x axis and then 100% on the y axis. And then my background image is going to be a linear gradient. Background image, linear gradient, which is going to move from left to right. So I'll say to right. And I'm going to use these colors. Right. So I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4 colors. As you can see here, like different shades of violet colors. And then I'm also going to give it a border radius because it's rounded. So border dash radius, it's going to be 50 pixels. And I have my transition all 0.4 seconds, and I'm going to use ease in out. Right. And then on hover is where the animation is going to happen, so it's going to change the position of the background. So dot btn dash 5 hover, it's going to now say background position 100% on the x and then 0 on the y, like this. So when I hover, say the windy effect, as simple as that. Yeah, that was a bit of CSS styling. A lot of cool button animations you can actually do. This is my preferred way of animating some of these buttons, but that doesn't mean that's the only way you can use to get this kind of effect or get this kind of effect or this. If you want to see more HTML and CSS animated buttons that are beautiful, you can come to my website. So this is my personal website. When you come to the buttons section, so if you go to showcase and go to CSS buttons, there are like a lot of buttons here with some animations. Some of the animations I showed you today are here. For example, this one. So we have a lot of cool animations going on as well. So different animations here. Yeah, social media buttons here as well. These are all cool animated buttons, right? And so when you come here and you want any of these buttons, it is free to use. So you click on copy code, and then you see the HTML and CSS source code here. You can just copy and use it in your project or whatever. So this website is still under maintenance, so there are a lot of things that are not working at the moment. I can show you some of the sections I have this playground section. I have this box shadow generator, which I'm going to be recording a tutorial about how to make a box shadow generator. I also have this glass morphism generator. Yeah, so feel free to check my website out. I am still building this, so when you see anything and you want to alert me, just feel free and send me a message. So thank you for watching this video, and I am going to see you in the next video.